But
Right.
any interesting stuff before we are joined by Dr. Sharif Mahmoud Khalid?
Yeah.
Any interesting things you've taken stock of over the... I'm sure you followed the Ejiso conversation and our friend Prof, and the whole scenario, and then the chieftaincy, the whole bit about, the chief versus Akufo-Addo thing. These are things that Professor Tuguba actually speaks to.
Oh, okay.
We'll hear from him. But
I'm looking forward to hearing that interview. But what really struck me was, it was just last night that I was listening to the president's speech again, and he talks about his government's commitment to ensuring that the income of workers are, improved, and talks about how the best minister is the minister for, I've forgotten, but the president speaks as if that the country, we are so good and comfortable. Like sometimes when I hear him talk, I'm wondering, does he feel what the ordinary citizens are going through?
It's called alternative reality.
Thank you for that. And I thought, are you serious? But I'm not here to dissect, so I'm not here to get into what he's saying. I just feel like majority of Ghanaians wish the president would be more empathetic towards the plight of the ordinary citizens, what we are going through, and not just wax lyrical about how his government is committed to improving the economy and how in his first term the economy was an upward trajectory to COVID-19. In 2024, you still want to blame COVID-19 for the economic woes we find ourselves in? Let's get into the newspapers. Well,
the alternative reality will keep... someone said once that there were two types of Ghana. The Ghana our leaders talk about, or our misleaders talk about, is the spiritual Ghana. The rest of us live in the physical Ghana.
Yeah, I think so, because...
So the physical Ghana, we see what is, but the spiritual one is what our leaders talk about.
Ben, it's not easy out there. I mean, you and I probably are a tad bit more comfortable than... I don't know. I like to think that we are okay, because sometimes, this short few days that I was away, I experienced the reality on the ground. Some people are earning 500 Ghana cedis a month.
You're talking
about 500. How do they survive?
People are earning 350.
What do they eat?
400.
Ben, I was shocked to the bone. But, someone says that this is the country where you earn 1,000 cedis, yet you spend 3,000 cedis at the end of every month. How do you think that you get those monies?
Yeah. I mean, I've seen different lists where people talk about what it takes, how much you should be earning to even, just be able to survive in Ghana. I've seen different things. Some say if you earn 10,000, you are safe. Above 8,000, some say 5,000 and all of that. But trust me, your inflation will depend on what you choose to go for, yes. But at the same time, even at the barest minimum, if you're factoring in, let's say you drive a little car, 1.6 liters, or even something else, you're looking at fuel. You're looking at food, drink. You're looking at utility tariffs. And let's say, like in my case, you have someone who requires medication and some health checks from time to time and all of that. Trust me, you will not make it through the month on what you earn.
Man, it's hard.
You will not.
And I'm starting to feel like we are blessed, because then we...
That is if you're
the reality is terrible.
If you're focusing on one job. Now, that is one end I like. People are doing multiple things. I've always been a fan of, when you go outside, you're doing 2-3 jobs at the same time. That's what I'm saying, that now people have been forced. You can't, let's say you're doing one thing, earning one salary, and you think you will make it, you will not. But it is what it is.
It is what it is, yeah. Is Dr. Hashif joined us yet?
Well, he's not joined us yet.
So let's start with the Ghanaian Times newspaper. On the front page, obviously chronicling some stories from the May Day celebration. Let's protect our democracy, President Akufo-Addo tells organized labor. It's there at the front page of the Ghanaian Times newspaper. National Health Insurance Authority releases 170.7 million Ghana cedis to service providers nationwide. Soldier shot dead at Kasoa Millenium City over land disputes. The Ghana Armed Forces condemns that act. And NPP retains a Ejiso parliamentary seat. Mr. Kwabena Boateng seen there, his photo there, being declared winner after the elections. Let's start with a story about let's protect our democracy from the president. And the story is on page 9. It reads, The President Akufo-Addo has called on organized labor to work towards ensuring that the country's record as a beacon of democracy and peace is protected before, during, and after the December general election. At the National Parade to mark the celebration of this year's Labor Day at the Independence Square at Accra, he said the country had come too far to lose out on this record just for the sake of an election. Quote, Ghana's track record as a bastion of democracy and peace is an enviable one that needs protection. Our democratic progress or processes have stood the test of time, especially under the Fourth Republic. We know, and it goes on and on to talk about how this coming elections, we should ensure that we uphold the peace that the country has been enjoying since 1992.
Right.
That's what the president is saying to organized labor. Ben, do you want to react to this? I listened to the speech
the things happening in there. You know, the most recent one has to do with SNIT, pensions, contributions, and now some thinking about increasing it from 18% in terms of the contribution. But you ask yourself, look, with what some of us pay and the rest, when you pension off, what you're getting is a pittance, right? And now there is some capping off and all of that. So those who are earning the 100,000 pluses and all that. But the point is, are we managing it properly? You look at SNIT's investment portfolio, World Trade Center, Ghana, and all of that. How many offices have been rented out? Those are losses we are incurring there in real estate, in other ventures, sometimes government bonds, and all of these. So I think the microscope really ought to be focused on SNIT, how they are investing our money. And I mean, if you go to a Berkshire Hathaway and all of that, these investments are, because this is opium, other people's money. It is our contributions, okay? Our contributions make SNIT what it is. It also takes care of the staff there and sometimes the luxurious benefits they get. So I think more could be done in that regard. But these unions are saying an increment isn't necessarily take politics out of the leadership of SNIT, get your investments right, and maybe reach out to more people, and you could get what it needs or what you need to do the work. You don't necessarily need to increase it, because if at 18%, you're going to push it through the roof. At what, 20% plus? What would that mean for incomes that people earn? Already people are struggling. So it's a two-way street, but then again, it's kind of like the story on taxes.
I just think that if you want to protect our democracy and uphold the Constitution, he should set the example. There are things, incidents of things happening, and you wonder, are we under a rule of law? I saw the minorities letter to the president, you know, rebuking this representatives of the president to the various ministries, and I'm asking myself, does he have such power to do that? And on the back of that, he comes to protect the democracy. The country is hard. People don't have enough money to feed. And so they can pick up arms and try to, you know, it will increase crime and so many things that will disrupt the peace that we enjoy. I think it's time that we stop just talking and saying that let's uphold the democracy, let's protect the democracy and fix the fundamentals. I'm a bit,
we should
I don't know, unsettled this morning because,
doing, right?
Enough of the talk shop. Let's do whatever it takes to ensure that this country has a chance, you know, the young people in this country have a chance. Because if the democracy is disrupted, if the peace is disrupted, it will be as a result of our own actions and inactions.
True.
Benjamin.
But the point, though, when it comes to the ministerial and deputy ministerial appointments, the president has done his bit. He has put out the appointments. Of course, there's a reason on the back of the LGBTQI plus bill, and in a way, it still comes back to the president, because if the president had done what the law says he should do constitutionally, either veto this thing or give your assent and all of that, maybe we wouldn't be here with this power tussle. But taking that out, the president has done his bit with the ministers. Parliament has not vetted these people. So I think technically you can't blame the president unless you want to extend it to the point where, because of his own antics when it comes to not giving his assent to the bill, making it a law, whatever the case may be, like he did with the e-levy, it has led to this exchange of fisticuffs between the legislative body and the executive. But it behoves the people who have been appointed. You are not yet a substantive minister or deputy minister. And some of them, thankfully, have not attempted, maybe they may be lingering in the ministries, but they've not attempted anything. But if you start acting as though you were a substantive minister, that's where it becomes problematic. The other side of the conversation, though, would be that in the absence of substantive ministers, what happens to those ministries? So it's quite a conversation.
Right. But it is what it is.
It is what it is.
So the National Health Insurance Authority releases 170.7 million Ghana cedis to service providers nationwide. The amount of 170 million to healthcare providers across the country. Okay, the story reads, payments covers claims of January and February 2024 for the lower tier facilities who form the majority of healthcare providers. It also covers up to November 2023 for upper tier facilities and healthcare providers. So the NHIA, in a statement issued in Accra yesterday and copied the Ghanaian Times, said the payment was made on Tuesday, April 30th, 2024. And the statement was signed by the acting chief executive officer of the NHIA, Dr. Da Costa Abuaje. And he said the payment was in fulfillment of the NHIA's mandate. It said the payment was also to ensure the continued provision of quality healthcare services to all citizens across the country. We had stories, I don't know if you followed, this is to our viewers, the series we did on national health insurance and how some hospitals and health facilities are rejecting the card because they do not have enough money to make provisions for these claims. And so if they're releasing some 170 million to service providers nationwide, I would say it's a step in the right direction.
Well, I would say so too. I mean, the National Health Insurance Scheme it's been bedeviled with these challenges. And I've had places, pharmaceuticals, others saying that now we've even stopped dealing with because there's such a backlog.
Yeah.
I know people who are owed millions, of cedis. So I guess all of these actions, you see, these countries' problems can be solved with the right thinking and the right mechanisms in place. But somehow I feel intentionally we try not to resolve some of them because some of them would not inure to the benefit of the political elite if they were resolved. And again, I'll go back to Professor Tuguba. The conversation today, I don't want you to miss it because part of the things he talks about, even in terms of the work of the 2010 Constitutional Review Commission, some things that we are facing now were solved then. If we had implemented, we wouldn't be where we... Did you get it? So it appears we are happy to run in circles rather than... It's like the Israelites from Egypt to the Promised Land. Some say that journey should have taken 40 days or less. It took them 40 years.
Well,
that's where Ghana
they didn't have GPS. Right, let me do this story about the soldier shot dead at Kasoa, a rather sad one. And the Ghana Armed Forces has condemned the act. I mean, we know the story, but context is important for our viewers. So, Lance Corporal Enoch Danso of the Ghana Armed Forces was on Tuesday shot dead in front of Kasoa Millenium City Police Station in the Gomwa East District of the Central Region. The soldier, stationed at the Burma Camp Base Workshop, was shot dead by Benlord Ababiu, believed to be Jesse Hene of Millenium City over land disputes. The soldier of the Burma Camp Base Workshop, accompanied by 2 colleagues, sought to resolve a land dispute at the police station. Despite prior complaints, the soldiers were obstructed by Ababiu, leading to a fatal shooting as they attempted to proceed to the Divisional Police Command. The paper learnt that Lance Corporal Danso, in the company of 2 colleagues, drove in a car to the area to address the matter. They had already lodged a complaint at the Millenium City District Police Command, but to no avail. Now, the Director General, Public Relations Officer of the Ghana Armed Forces, Brigadier General E. Agri-Kwashi, in a statement said, quote, "We reiterate our commitment to maintaining law and order in our communities and urge all citizens to seek peaceful and lawful means to resolve land disputes and to refrain from engaging in acts of violence to prevent such tragic incidents." You can read the rest of the story in the Ghanaian Times newspaper. This is a sad one. I saw the video, the guy shouting, "Wekuno, Wekuno." I'm like, yeah, we can all see that. Very sad. Right. No reactions. I'll do some quick headlines and then I'll move on to the next.
I mean, we spoke about it somewhat extensively yesterday, so I think my thoughts on this are...
Okay. Man accused of 65,000 Ghana cedis police recruitment scam jailed. These and many more stories in the Ghanaian Times newspaper. Pick one for yourself. And this is Daybreak. On the front page, it says, Dumso will not return. Akufo-Addo at May Day celebration. Chiefs, people of Upper West welcome cylinder recirculation. Move to higher grounds as rains intensify, the Meteo Agency warns. GFA police probe Millenium City murder. That was a story we just did. And coming up, rots at Accra Regional Lands Commission. Let's do this one story of Dumso will not return, and then Benjamin will get into his papers. That story should be on the page 3, right? So during the annual day celebration yesterday in Accra, President Akufo-Addo announced that the recent challenges in electricity supply, known as Dumso, have been effectively resolved. Addressing attendees, the president expressed optimism that the erratic power supply issues are now a thing of the past, thanks to successful resolutions of problems related to transformers and gas supply. So Dumso has stopped. When was the last time you experienced a power cut?
I think...
Been a while?
2 days ago.
Yeah? Okay.
Was it 2 days ago? But you know what's interesting? Since Herbert Crapper, the board chair of the ECG, said it was going to be over in a few days,
yeah,
the Dumso in my area has actually become worse.
Because they know
there was a day when I think power outages went to as many as between one day and the next, about 11 times, on and off.
Yeah.
You know, but to be fair, I also know of some places where people say it is beginning
like my
to
area.
normalize.
I've not had any.
That's being
cuts.
fair.
Yeah.
I just heard one of our technical people whisper in my ear that he slept in darkness last night. So it's here and there. Some people too are saying, actually, when the Dumso thing, many people were talking, we weren't getting it. Now, rather, we are getting power outages. So it's a bit difficult to wrap your mind around what exactly is happening. Are things getting better? Because you speak to someone
money?
and you think, okay,
it's money.
maybe.
Have they found money to buy fuel now?
It's
and
not a money problem. They say it's not a money problem.
Benjamin.
But they say it's not a money problem. Why would you foist it? Why would you wish evil on the country? In the words of Dr. Matthew Ofogu-Prempeh, he says, if you're asking for a Dumso timetable, you are wishing evil.
I just hope that being bold to say that Dumso is now a thing of the past, saying this in as much words as I just said by the president, I just hope that indeed we are making headway, because if it comes back, then, Mr. President, you're not being honest with the people. But,
you know, honestly, I think it is only realistic to take what has been said with a pinch of salt.
Right.
You remember when the finance minister, and we are out of the woods, it was corroborated by, economically we are out of the woods. I don't know which woods yet, because the woods now appear thicker than the ones we were in. But I have grown a thick skin when it comes to politicians, especially our brand of politicians and their comments. There are places where if you go to Japan or Norway and a politician says something, they 90+% mean it, because the consequences of not fulfilling what they have said is, here politicians talk, and I'm not, no disrespect to Mr. President, I'm just saying that I take whatever politicians say, and it's not just MPP politicians, with a grain of salt. Because oftentimes what they say versus what they do are not commensurable. So to avoid disappointment, especially with what I've seen over the last, and the optimism and the decline, I am very careful. You know, it's like watching a Black Stars match. You have to measure your expectations, else you could develop blood pressure issues. So measure your expectations. Would you like me to?
What papers do you have then?
Baby guide. All right, so Kasoa soldier killer grabbed, and yesterday we spoke about that issue. Ben Lord Abebio in police grips. Cecilia Dapa's case, AG rejects SP's, that is special prosecutor's money laundering allegation. Boateng retains a Jiso NPP seat. Kwabena Boateng, the lawyer, retaining that seat for them. I'm interested in finding out what happens in 2024 if Kwabena Osu-Eduomi decides to run again.
As an
that could be
independent
problematic. And while I said yesterday that this was a Pyrrhic victory, the MPP has won the seat. But have they really won it? You know, some wins come at such a cost that they are called Pyrrhic victories. you lose so much to get a win. But it's up to the party to look at how they will deal with that. U.S. Army Major convicted for gun smuggling. And Dumso is over, Nana says so. Is Dumso over in your community? You can share with us via the live stream. But let me just quickly get into those stories, starting with page 3. So Dumso is over. President Akufo-Addo has given Ghanaians a firm assurance that the issue of intermittent power supply that has recently engulfed the nation. I don't know why people like using recently. It's not recent. It's been there for a while. Will come to an end soon. According to him, it will not be under his watch that the dark days of Dumso, the power crisis that bedeviled the country under the leadership of then President Mahama and the NDC, will be reenacted. And this is why, this right here, this paragraph, is why there is no admission that there is Dumso. But honestly, whom are we deceiving? Then there is also the story, let me look at it. The Office of the Attorney General has returned the Office of the Special Prosecutor's docket on former Minister for Sanitation and Water Resources, Cecilia Dapa, and her husband, Daniel Osei-Kuffour, which called on the Economic and Organized Crime Office to investigate the two for money laundering and structuring. According to a document emanating from the AG's office, the OSP's docket did not provide sufficient information regarding its investigations into the two that show suspicion of the offense of money laundering and structuring. The document signed by Evelyn Kielson, a chief state attorney, also noted that a letter written by IOCO in February 1, 2024, asking the OSP for a full report into the investigation it had conducted in respect of the former minister and her husband had still not been responded to by the OSP.
In short, it's baseless.
Case Yamutu. But you know, if you found some interesting wads of cash, a stash of cash in your house, and you couldn't explain the source of that wealth, you'd promptly be attacked by the GRA for taxes, and maybe someone may even tell you you're a money launderer.
You're going
Where did you
too
get that
far
money?
With my house,
on
the bank. How much money can you deposit in your account? An explained amount of money can you deposit or withdraw from your account without being bedazzled with inquiries and...
There's a term for us, politically exposed. There's a term for people like us who do this work. And these things do happen. Yeah. In fact, there was a time when someone's transaction came through my account because the person was facing, it was to clear something, and I just turned it on. I got asked questions, and I explained to them with detailed emails and everything. It's not even mine. It was just someone was facing problems with proof. So I would get queried, but some minister somewhere wouldn't.
You're not a politician.
No, I am not.
Yeah.
Probably I never will be. You know my stance on politics, right? I love the study of politics, but especially because of the brand of politics here. I detest our brand of politics. I mean, politics where you are insulting someone's mother because the person is... Politics where you see black and say it's white. Politics where you've seen a video that... what's the word? Implicates someone. But because that person is in your party, you come on air and say, I've not seen the video. But if it had been from the opposition side, you would see the video. That kind of politics is, I don't know. But it is what it is here. I'll just do this final one and we can go on. A Fort Liberty Army major from the United States, Kojo Owusu-Date, has been found guilty of smuggling guns into Ghana in barrels of rice and household items. The 42-year-old convict was found guilty of smuggling goods from the United States, dealing in firearms without a license, delivering firearms without notice to the carrier, illegally exporting firearms without a license, making false statements to a U.S. agency, making false declarations in court, and conspiracy. So Kojo Owusu-Date. But this is serious.
Smuggling
this is a major issue
into the country.
right here. Major issue.
And it's election year. And the president is saying we should protect our democracy, constitution, free from violence. I have no comments on that.
If I may, so Appiaje Kweku David says, the ordinary Ghanaian that you guys care so much about always exchange votes for money. They actually request it before voting. Instead, The Ghanaian media have closed their eyes on this canker and fixed their energy on leadership, forgetting that the leaders, politicians, bought their way to power. Let's stop this practice in whatever forms it comes, being it transportation, feeding, and all that. Appiah, I agree with you, but we do talk about it. We have, in fact, I think more than, I can almost say that more than any other media house, we have done that, exposing some of these things. But ask yourself, just how much can we do? We are not a law agency. We don't enforce the law. What we do is expose the rot, and then the authorities are supposed to act on them. We have put in RTI requests to get some information for it. So if we do that, what more can you expect? What more can we do? What more can you expect? Realistically, I mean, I don't know, but Appiah, I receive your comments in good faith.
But I understand what I get the point he's trying to make, Ben. If we didn't enable these politicians, they wouldn't be comfortable buying votes. Every delegate, when it comes to primaries and all these delegates elections, they don't vote based on competence anymore. They vote based on who gives them the highest amount of money, or who gives them the best refrigerator or something. So the politicians understand that that's what the people want now. And so if we all decide to say that enough is enough, we don't want your money, what we need is for you to do the work that we've put you in power to do, they would also be on their toes and realize that they're accountable to us.
Part of the problem of the people wanting the money, it's like the two of us, we wouldn't go and engage in foot soldierism for anybody because of our level of education, enlightenment, the work we do, right? But part of the problem where people are willing to take 1,000 cedis, 5,000 cedis, do you know part of it? Unemployment. People don't have a gainful means of taking care of themselves. So they are waiting for the next cocoa season. And they'll do everything. They'll come here, some of them, will come here and write tosh because they are beholden to. A lot of the time, look at people who will come and say a certain thing about, we are being unfair. Da, 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 da. I have a simple thing I do. You go to their Facebook, you will see colors there, things they've done. This person is a party foot soldier. The person is bashing you not because you are not making sense. The person is bashing you because you are bashing the party that oils his machine, butters his bread.
Well,
it's as simple as that. So because of that,
media,
it's a beholden system. And if people have a means, how many people would be following some of these politicians? How many? Well, let's welcome aboard Dr. Sharif. Today is quite a day, right? It's big quite a day.
Yeah, it's a big one. But the point is, where I think I diverge a bit with Ben, if you've actually engaged in grassroots politics, which I've done in the past, right, is that the delegate list comprises of teachers, sometimes nurses, professionals who are earning a living, right?
But how much does that professional, even professionally in Ghana, earn?
I mean, if someone is a nurse or a teacher, like let's just say a nurse, for example, that's a decent earning comparatively, right? So I'm not just trying to tie this to an unemployment situation. I think it's an attitudinal situation we've been breeding for quite some time now, because people feel like, okay, well, if we vote for him, he's going to go to parliament for the next 4 years. We might not see him, right? So let's cash out of him now. And when he goes for the next 4 years, it's going to be, and you have MPs. How much an average MP earning, right? Has to be at funerals, at weekends, and all of these things. So when we have all of these procurement issues, we just did a recent research. All of these procurement, sole sourcing contracts and what have you are tied to corruption. And you trace them, and they are politicians who need this money to go back to run a primary or to go back to run an election. So that's which is why we are always advocating. Can we have the bare minimum for everyone? And by bare minimum, decent healthcare, decent education, and decent employment. I think these are the basics that all of us, regardless of our professions and backgrounds, should be striving for. And it's long coming.
Let's get into the new final newspaper and wrap with. I'll just do one story from here, then you can come through with any other thoughts you have, maybe on Ejisu and other matters, and then we can go from there. World market price of cocoa drops by 27% in 2 days. Like, it's been plummeting like nobody's business. Link tax payment system to SNIT and NHIS benefits. Grau says so. Let me quickly just take a quick look at that story on page 10.
What's the essence of the Ghana card now?
So the Ghana Revenue Workers Union is advocating the tax payment system be integrated with the Social Security and National Insurance Trust and the National Health Insurance Scheme to incentivize citizens to actively fulfill their tax obligations. This proposition was put forth by the national chairman of the GRAU, Theophilus Shen, during a special May Day celebration organized by the Tax Authority to commemorate International Workers' Day. And just this one in addition, then you can come in. Page 2. So page 2, don't play hide and seek with me. Government is on the verge of enacting a new comprehensive and contemporary labor law that protects the interests of all actors in the labor force in the country. The new law, when enacted, will, among other things, propose substantial changes to the structure, architecture, and judicial functions of the National Labor Commission. It could be a starting point, but I don't know whether this new bit is the be-all and end-all solution to our problems. Any quick thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, it's, I want to talk about the tax issues. As you'd see, we have it all over the place. We have a Ghana card, we've got TIN numbers, we've got SNATE numbers, and all of these things. Why don't we just synchronize them into one platform and know that, okay, well, we have a national identification number, and this is for tax purposes, it's for hospital, like it's for seeking education, social services and amenities and what have you. But we have it all over the place, right? And the issues of tax, as I always say, I was speaking on one of your sister stations, we go for the low-hanging fruits when it comes to tax collection measures. So, for instance, the recent scandal of SML, what's happening is, okay, revenue generation, contractually, they're very easy to collect revenue from extractive sector, like oil and gas, mining, and the likes of that. So we are contracting a third-party company to do this for us. I say, where are the taxes? The taxes are in the informal sector. I'll be happy to see one day that we have a watertight, contract that has gone through the right place, and you bring third parties in to say, okay, can you go into the formal sector and harvest as much tax as possible, or the informal sector? But we're not getting that. So if we keep saying let's synchronize the 10, let's synchronize SNET, it's still going to be the same old people who are within the formal tax channels that will be collecting these revenues from. Whereas we have a big basket of people that we could collect this. So I would rather they call for collaboration from institutions like the Ghana Statistical Service and all of these institutions that are involved in, mapping out the country population issues, business registration, business intelligence surveys, to see how we can really bring all these informal sectors, the woman with the kiosk at the corner, how can we get her to be on the tax system? How can we get her to be on SNIT?
Right.
These are the things I think we should be looking forward to, other than just...
I'm done on my end, so if you have...
Yeah, no more papers. But I would like to take your reaction on the president's speech yesterday. What did you hear, and what did you make of it?
Well, I mean, it's... I was looking forward to a lot more, because this is a president who is superintendent of a country that is under, multiple crises. Economic crisis, energy crisis, educational crisis, and health crisis.
Right.
So my expectation was that he was going to sum up, to give some sort of like flake of hope to the good people to say, okay, this is what I'm doing on that front. Mind you, when the president gave, when we had this economic issue, he gave an address and said he was going to come back to our screens again, just as he was doing for COVID. He's not done that since. What has happened? Is it that we're not really gaining the momentum we want to be in the life? So I think that there's a lot more to be done. All the fanfare of wage increment, that does not reflect. Ask bankers today, they will tell you that all the allowances we used to earn, we're not looking forward to it because it's taxed at 25%. Right? So all these things that people, had decent jobs to, and they were looking forward to their clothing allowance and what have you, all of this have been taxed. Just yesterday, I was arranging a visa on arrival for a family friend. So I phoned the immigration services. We had an engagement. Within a few minutes, I got called back and said, look, effective tomorrow, we're going to have new tariffs. So that is what is going to apply to you. So I think we've exhausted our tax avenues. And what we're doing now is just increasing the existing ones. And for me, if a May Day speech come across as not really putting that hope of confidence in the health sector, in the education sector, in the employment sector for decency and all of that, I think that there's not much to talk about in this.
There you have it. I shared similar sentiments this morning that I didn't understand what the speech was about. I mean, we are suffering as a people, but Benjamin, we have to go. So let me not rant on and on about.
So at least his speech will not end your suffering.
He runs the country now,
doesn't he?
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, lady, for joining the conversation. We had in the studio Dr. Sharif Mahmoud Khalid. He's Associate Professor in Accounting and Finance. And, of course, your very own Mary Poppins, is that Sweetie Abochi. Before we get into Sports Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, always helping us bring you this segment, they are offering you prostate screening for free, fertility screening for free. That is, respectively, if you're male or female. Reach out to them at any of their branches here in Accra, at Spintex, opposite the Shell signboard, Kumasi, Krono Mabwe here, behind the Angel Educational Complex. There's Takrade Anaji State, Tema Community 22, Tichiman Hanswa, and Siaman Zima. You can reach them via phone on 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. Sports is right up next Tuesday.